Entitled Mom shoves her kid into my classroom and runs. From user DAYCARE. After that, Entitled Mother gets angry at me for manhandling her son after he broke my parents' fence, then refused to pay because he said sorry. From user Arnilium. Followed by an update to the story. Thank you to our posters for letting us read your stories. And if you would like us to read your stories next, please submit them to the r/Mr. Reddit subreddit. And if you're new, please subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories every single day. Entitled Mom shoves her kid into my classroom and runs. This is my first post on this forum, so please be gentle with me. Not sure if this is entitled parents or choosing beggars. For context, in my late teens and early 20s, I ran a free after-school program for kids out of a community center. The program was for kids ages 8 to 12 whose parents were currently undergoing a messy divorce. We had a sister program next door for parents of the kids. It was part class, part community group, part group counseling, where the kids, myself, and another volunteer discussed handling anger, prepared them for joint custody, changes in finances, what alimony and child support were, etc. The class was free. Some of the materials were paid for by the center, and the rest I covered myself. I liked the class, and it gave me a bit of padding on my resume, so I didn't mind buying snacks, coloring materials, and prizes for the kids. At the time, we were a few weeks into the class, and I had 8 kids who were attending. 8 is a great number, because do you know how many things come in packs of 8? It meant I bought stuff in those 8 packs so each kid would have something, and I didn't waste money on spares. So this afternoon, the kids are coming in, and this parent I haven't met with an unknown kid comes by and sort of drops the kid off without a word to me or her child. It's been a few years, but here is the conversation I remember. Me. Ma'am? Ma'am. Entitled Mom. What? Me. Hi, I don't think we've met. Your son isn't enrolled in this class, currently. You can't just drop him off with me. I was told this class is free. It is, but it's not a daycare. You do have to enroll your kid first. In the beginning of the term, I can't watch any kid who comes by. There are things I need to know, like allergies, emergency contacts. I kinda laugh. His name? Well, you can ask me right now. I'm sorry, but the class is starting right now, so I can't. But you can enroll him in the next term. You can find information on how to do that at Insert Information. Entitled Mom rolls her eyes. I have an appointment. Can't you just take him? For the record, the parents were supposed to be enrolled in the class across the hall, not just use us for free childcare. I can't. Besides, I didn't know I'd have another student today, so I don't have enough supplies or snacks for him. Oh, he doesn't need any snacks. He won't mind. Ma'am, of course he is going to mind. All the kids are eating Nutella snack pads and Capri Suns, and all the other kids have workbooks and he doesn't. It's not fair to him. Besides, it's not really safe for me to watch a kid that I have no information for, so you can sign him up for the next term. Entitled Mom gets all huffy. Fine. Entitled Mom grabs her kid and storms off. That was the end of it. Or so I thought. A few minutes later, I'm working with the kids, and the other volunteer is setting up our next activity. The door opens a crack. The same kid as before is shoved in, and the door slams. The other volunteer and I share a "what the heck" look, but I open the door and look out, and Entitled Mom is booking it down the hallway. Me. Ma'am! Entitled Mom yelling without turning around. I'll be back in a few hours. Me. Never mind, the class is only an hour long, half running after her. Ma'am, if you don't come and collect your son, I will call the police about an unaccompanied minor. He won't be here when you get back. Entitled Mom stops, sighs, turns around, and pegs me with a glare. You are being so unflexible. This is terrible customer service. Me. You're not a customer. Please take your son. Entitled mom grabs her kid's hand and starts storming off while yelling, I can't believe you would call the police on a child. What kind of a teacher are you? I am going to tell your boss about how horrible you were to me and my son. To this day, I wonder if she attempted to talk to my boss about my behavior, or imagining the look on her face when she found out the boss of the program was me. Next we've got Entitled mother gets angry at me for manhandling her son after he broke my parents' fence, then refuses to pay because he said sorry. So, this will be my first post ever on this sub, I think. But I have been reading stories on this subreddit for a long time, and well, I just had my first real encounter with an entitled mother, and honestly, I'm still part shocked and part laughing about it. Also of note, I am not a native English speaker, so I had to translate it all. Act 1. A Song of Fences and Footballs. So, for a bit of backstory, my parents sometimes ask me or my siblings to watch the house while they are gone because they do not want to leave the dogs alone for an extended period of time. Usually my youngest sibling does it because she still lives at home, but she had to go to her friend's party/sleepover. As a result, my parents asked if I had time, and given I did not have to work today, and I only have one crappy class that I can skip without any real trouble, I obliged. My parents live in a large village essentially, one that gives you the illusion of rural, but in reality, it is a 5 to 10 minute drive from several bigger towns and a city. One of those villages you want to leave as a 20-year-old, but you want to return to the moment you have your own kids. There is barely any crime, everyone knows everyone, it is extremely calm, etc. However, it has one issue. One of the larger towns close to the village is sort of notorious for scummy people. It is one of those towns that constantly manages to mess up its budget, and a good third of its population are lazy, and so on. It's like a giant pimple on an otherwise blemishless area. As a result, when people from said town manage to get some money, they have a tendency to move to the village my parents live in. Local government makes this nice and difficult for them on the down low, but they can't stop it all. And as expected, they bring their attitude with them. Our entitled mother and her devil spawn in this great saga are from said town. Our cast. We've got me, the Wizard of Oz. We've got entitled kid. We've got entitled mother, entitled dad, and the neighbor. So, I am sitting in the garden, minding my own business, scrolling through some news sites, messaging some friends, enjoying the nice weather, which is interrupted by the sound of a football being shot against my parents' house and the neighbor's house. We have this carport area between the two houses, which is roomy, and make sure you don't lose your ball all the time. So my parents generally allow kids to use it when they're at work. So this continues for a bit, and before long, the ball shoots right over the fence in the back of our yard, which I frankly did not notice as I was on my phone. However, I am quickly interrupted by the dog growling. Extremely big mix German and Belgian Shepherd, followed by the loud crack of wood and a thump from something large falling down. Well, I see the kid from 2 houses further falling down and my dog about to charge, so I put my phone on the table, grab the dog by its collar, and put it inside. In the meantime, the kid is already in the yard grabbing his ball and sprinting back to the broken fence. The fence is about 1.8 meters tall, made of wooden planks. Hence, it's not exactly made to withstand 13-year-old overweight kids climbing on it. The kid attempts to climb back over, cracking another plank at the bottom in his escape attempt before I walk over and grab him by the back of his shirt collar. Me. And where do you think you're going? Entitled kid. Let me go! Let me go! Me. I don't think so. You just broke the fence, so you can either calm down and we go to your house to explain what happened, or I can call the police. At this point, the kid starts flailing, trying to get himself loose. That is, until he turns around and looks at me. Now, I am 6'5", 6'6", in very good physical shape, and I have permanent resting jerk face, so he quickly stopped. At this point, I grabbed the key from my pocket and opened the door to the yard door to walk over to his house, with the kid still firmly by his shirt collar. As we reach the door, I knock on it and am greeted by the sound of a yelling woman behind the closed door, talking about how the kid has a key and now she has to get up, etc. But eventually, the door opened, and at this point, from the corner of my eye, I could already see my neighbor standing behind his living room window, arms crossed, shaking his head. Me. Hello, miss, you, entitled mom.
Let go of my boy right now. What is wrong with you?
I let go, primarily because I was shocked about her reaction. The kid starts sobbing like a 5-year-old and runs inside.
How dare you touch my son?
Well, if you would stop yelling and let me explain.
I am not yelling.
Note, she was yelling. Right, regardless. Your son just broke my parents' fence, trying—
And that gives you the right to manhandle my son?
I did not manhandle your son. I grabbed the collar of his shirt because he was trying to run away after he broke the fence. Now you can either calm down and we can come to an agreement how to handle this, or I can call the police and have them deal with it. At this point, she seemed to calm down a bit more, especially after I mentioned the word police.
Right, so it is probably not that bad.
She calls over her son, apparently having fixed his sadness as he appears again stuffing his face with candy.
Say you're sorry to the neighbor.
Sorry. And he bolts off again, not even giving me a chance to reply.
Well, with that out of the way,
she attempts to close the door, but I quickly shake off my shock and put my foot in the door, pushing the door open again, and at this point, raising my voice substantially. Excuse me? Your son broke the fence. It's all fine and dandy. He gave an apology on your orders, but that still leaves the fact he just broke a 200-year-old wooden fence that will need to be replaced. Entitled Mom.
My son said sorry, and that is the end of it.
At this point, the neighbor has opened his door, leaning against his doorpost to listen in as his eyes are summoning a hurricane by the sheer amount of rolling they are doing. Just a little note, he dislikes them a lot. He has had a lot of problems with them ever since they moved in. Once again, our entitled mom attempts to close the door on me, but I still have my foot in the doorway, so all she is doing is giving my toes a thrashing. Me. Look, this is the last time her hulking 5'5" muscle mass of a husband appears now, visibly upset, annoyed, every muscle within his noodle arms straining, his balding head glistening in the sun, peeking through the door opening, though slightly obscured by the 3 strands of hair combed over his head from the side as his enormous shape looks up at his taller wife. Entitled Dad.
And what is the problem here? He is yelling at me and manhandled our son.
I will get you, you jerk! The door swings open, and as you may imagine, I am just shaking on my legs. This pure, mighty example of masculinity threatening to do me harm. Gosh, I have never been so terrified in my life. Look, dude, I didn't do jack crap to your son, and the only one who has been yelling this entire time is your wife. Now, your son broke my parents' fence, so you can either get it repaired or give me the money to buy a new one and pay me for the time it takes to replace it. I wouldn't have charged labor costs, but given they were being jerks, so can I. Or we can get the police involved.
You have no proof of what happened, so go fix it yourself, jerk. And if I ever see—
Neighbor, I saw everything. Your son broke the fence and tried to run away. Also, your wife just assaulted the neighbor with the door. You can clearly spot a devious smirk on the neighbor's face. He likely did not see anything, but like I said, he absolutely hates them. And this was him taking revenge, I think. At the same time, I can see entitled mom and entitled dad visibly losing all the bravado they had left. Me. So, as I was saying, the fence cost 200 euros when my parents purchased it. Add another 50 for the time it takes me to replace it, and we all walk away from this. Added to that, if you threaten me again, I will just have to defend myself, won't I? At this point, I was honestly sort of hoping he would lose his cool and attack me, cause you have reasonable cause to defend yourself in this case, and honestly, I don't handle threats very well, and I have quite a temperament myself, so you may imagine I was seething at this point. But of course he backed off. He told me he'd get me the money tomorrow. I reminded him if I or my parents did not get it before tomorrow evening, I would be sure to call the police. Also, I informed them their kid was no longer allowed to play on our property, the carport. I thanked my neighbor and returned to the yard to scroll on my phone, make this post, and laugh about this stupid ordeal. Update. Since I saw no mention in the rules that updates are not allowed, and since a lot of people asked me for one, I figured I am good to go, and I figured this way of updating would be easier. Also, I just sort of want to use Act 2, A Clash of Dads, and it would be lost in an extremely long post if I add it to my other post. Also, it would sort of look messy, you know. I may have minor OCD of the obsessive variant when it comes to threads. So as I said on my previous post, I am not a native English speaker / writer. As such, excuse any mistakes as I am translating everything that was said. The day had passed without any real excitement, apart from the lords of the fortress returning, my parents. It went from morning to afternoon, and soon the daylight was starting to fade. It was nearing dinner time. So basically, I had already informed my parents as to what happened on the phone. I chose to explain it again in further detail when they got home. I showed them the fence, and my dad was unhappy to say the least. Like I said, there is some history there already, and these neighbors in question have been nothing but an annoyance to the entire street. But it seemed this time they took it a step too far in my dad's book. Regardless, I explained to him that they agreed to pay up for the fence before the evening, so he should expect them to be at the door anytime with the 250 euros agreed upon, which was honestly the only thing that stopped him from going over there himself and giving them a piece of his mind. Lo and behold, at the last possible moment when I was ready to call the police, Dumb and Dumber decided to show up. So my dad opens the door with me right behind him. My dad. So, finally decided to show up? Entitled Mom.
Yeah, we are here to talk about what happened. How dare you think your son can talk to us like that?
I let out a great big sigh. My dad.
No, you are here to pay for the damages to my fence. Beside that, I want absolutely nothing to do with you people.
It was at this point, yet again, my knees nearly gave out as her husband appeared from behind her. His shape sculpted by the gods enough to intimidate even a Spartan in the days of Leonidas. Entitled Dad.
And what is that supposed to mean?
My dad.
That I want you to pay for the damages your son did to my fence, and then I want to go back to not speaking to you.
Again, it may sound harsh, but like I said, not the first rodeo with these people. Entitled Mom.
How dare you? We are here to talk about how rude your son was.
Me. Was I rude before or after you yelled at me and slammed the door against my foot? Or perhaps when your husband made his hilarious attempt to threaten me? You should have seen the dude's face as he was muttering to come up with some sort of smart comeback. It was also at this point that my neighbor walked over to our front lawn, peeking over the hedge, about 150 centimeters tall, surrounding the front lawn. My dad.
Look, are you going to pay for the damages, or are we just going to have to call the police? I am in no mood to deal with you people any longer than I am absolutely forced to deal with you.
Entitled Mom.
No. First, we want your son to apologize for how he behaved.
Me. Could you please stop yelling? We have neighbors, you know. Entitled Mom.
See?
being rude again.
Entitled Dad. You better tone down the attitude. At this point, I am just done with these people. I am certainly not going to say sorry for, I'm not sure what I was supposed to say sorry for in the first place. So I grab my phone and start going through the numbers. Since the non-emergency police line is somewhere saved when you buy the phone most of the time. Me. Right. I'm calling the police. We'll just have them deal with it. My dad. Good idea. Now you people get the heck off of my front lawn. We'll have the police deal with this. Entitled Mom.
What? No. Ugh. Just give him the money, Entitled Dad.
I could see Entitled Dad's bravado disappear once again. It was like he was deflating, for the lack of a better word. At this point, he just walked over to my dad, pulled the money from his pocket, and handed it to him. My dad. Was that truly so hard? My neighbor had the brightest, most forget-you-esque smile on his face and yells over. Sure seems like it was. Some people just don't know how to behave. I could see Entitled Mom keeping herself back from absolutely blowing up. Her fingertips dug into her hand palm, stomping back to her house, likely breaking one of those incredibly gross, extremely long pink nails. Hilariously enough, her deflated husband immediately follows her, pretty much like an obedient little shadow. And that, my friends, is the end of my story. Or is it? And shoutouts to our Re-Generals of the day, Red Girl, Apex, and Joey. Become tomorrow's Re-Generals by leaving as many Re's as you can in the comments below.